What's up, motherfuckers? Yesterday, Levon Aronian won his game against Samuel Shankland, placing himself only half point behind Wesley So and Fabiano Caruana. So now the youth championship are so close with three players in the top of the board. I'm so happy too for Aronian because for me he's a great player, one of the best players who never be world champion, maybe the best in the history who never be world champion. So let's analyze his so interesting victory against Samuel Shankland. Okay, Shankland came with the Najdorf defense. Okay, let's start with the first move, e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, c takes, knight f6, knight c3, a6, Najdorf defense, and here Aronian select the move bishop e2, and Samuel Shankland came with e6. Here e5 was the main move, followed by bishop e7, or castle, for example, knight b3. And you can go to f3 or to b3, for example, bishop e7, or castle. That could be a main line, bishop e3, king h1. By the way, Shankland decides to go with e2, with e6, bishop e3. And I never play like that with white, but once I analyzed helping my girlfriend for a game, and I remember that this line was also interesting for white. Now, white plan is just attack with g4, like Aronian making the game. Knight bd7, g4, a6, h6, f4, threatening g5, b5, g5, f takes, rook h3, attacking the bishop. All of this was Samuel Shankland preparation. Aronian now is out of the prep. Aronian now is using his time back. Shankland is still in preparation. I think until the move 15 or 16 was Shankland preparation. Bishop f2, knight g8, and here Aronian played the best move g6. 96 was other option, but it's in a equal position, but who blacks needs to know many things because all the time white have 3 or 4 possible moves to maintain the equal, and black only have one the majority of the time. F takes, bishop h5, king e7, queen g4. Now the rook is trapped. The rook should sacrifice for the bishop. Queen takes before attacking the knight. Okay, now let's see that white have uh, one rook and a pawn against 2 pieces, but the black king is so unsafe for the moment. But okay, the machine maintains the equal with first b4, now developing the pieces, bishop b7, rook f1, just taking the pawn, queen h8, knight e5, knight d4, queen a5, queen g8, b3, d3, queen d5. Now black have a change down, but now is the white king with unsafe. Bishop g3, bishop d3, take, rook f7, king d6, rook f8, queen e4, king d2, and it takes d4, and the position is equal according to the machine. But okay, Aronian chooses the best move, d6, queen f6. Of course, Shankland still in preparation, bishop h5, takes d6, bishop g4, rook takes e3, typical sacrifice, and black have no more option to still play inactive. Rook c3, bc3, knight e5. Still, black is always in preparation. Bishop e3. Here is the first moment where Shankland stopped to think, but he thinks a little bit and he plays the best move 5. Trending g4. Try to to close the bishop. And okay, let's first take a first look to the position. Now we have a rook against a knight and a pawn. So we can say that white is slightly better in material, but the rook takes e3 sacrifices are so typical because now these pawns are double, so these pawns have no so much power. Maybe the good strength of white is that it's a little bit up in development. Okay, white have 3 pieces developed, and black only have this 9. But okay, the position is also complex now. Okay, Aronian select a4, queen h5 also the option, d6, queen e2, but here d4, bishop d2, bishop d7, so castle, and then or bishop e3 or bishop g3. Okay, white is fine. But a4 was typical move, just challenging the the black pawns. So typical. The breakthrough in the Sicilian play e4 trying to take the space in the queen side because okay, first you are threatening on b5, and if black takes on e4, it's giving to you some space here and a part of a weak ace pawn. So a4 typical move in the Sicilian, queen a6. And here Aronian goes wrong with the bishop. He goes to f1, who can look so natural, of course, because he's attacking b5 and then he's going to threat a6 after b takes a4. But the Matsis prefer the move bishop d2. For example, bishop f1, of course, this was the best move, rook a6, rook a4, and here is equal according to the machine. But okay, bishop d2 is a little bit better. B takes a4, rook a4, here bishop d7, rook a5, knight f6, bishop g3, or instead of rook a5, white can play here bishop e3, and just repeat moves, but here play with knight f3. Knight f6, take, and queen b1. That's the other option of white. But okay, bishop f1 looks natural because it's attacking b5 and a6. And here Shankland should have take here. Instead of that, he played knight f6. Active move, of course. Shankland is trying to play active, like since the first move. Samuel Shankland is trying to play also active, of course. As prefer the develop of the pieces than just defend pawns. But okay, Aronian just decided to take a pawn and Shankland take on e4. Looks so logical, of course. And here Aronian face taking the second pawn. Uh, Now, of course, black is not threatening a takes b5, so for that reason, you shouldn't hurry to take on a6. It was better to play queen a2, attacking the knight. Knight f2, queen f2. Just black is losing because black have no so much counterplay, and now white is taking on a6, just win the game. And if knight c3, just queen e3, bishop b7, rook g1, and it's just white is just winning. The problem of the move b takes a6 of Aronian is just the problem is knight c3, who was so annoying. Queen d2. If queen c1, d5, and if queen d2, knight d4, bishop d5, just king f7. Of course, the idea of take on a6 early was free the possibility of bishop b5. But here queen is and d5, and the machine say that black have enough counterplay and the position is equal. That's true that black maybe is coming with bishop b4, who will be so annoying. And if king f1, some ideas with maybe knight d4. It's true that here black have many counterplay for the exchange. But okay, instead of that, the position of course is so complicated. Both players made many mistakes during the game because it's a so difficult position to play. So for that reason, there is a no perfect game, but so interesting. D4, played by Shankland. No great move by Aronian, playing queen c1, trading queens. The huge problem of white position is just the king. That's okay, the black king is so safe and the white king is so unsafe. For the reason Aronian chose to trade queens, with queen c1, black have the possibility of take on e6, but Aronian value more the trade queens and put his king safety more or less than the e6 pawn. So let's analyze how important is the king safety in a chess position. That he prefers to use the strong a6 pawn just to trade queens. But okay, Sangland, his best response was just take the pawn and accept that he's slightly worse here, but okay, he has a defendable position. But of course, white is slightly better here thanks to the saints up. Bishop d2 here, knight f2, king f2, rook c8, rook a1, bishop c4, rook a7, bishop e7, rook b1, for example, to double in the g5, bishop h4, just king g1, or king g3 here was fine. Instead of accept the endgame, Shankland just try to still complicate the position and maintain queens over the board, just thinking that your king is open, so I just going to maintain queens. The problem is that after the move b5, king f7, sword castle, now the white king is safe again. Okay, of course, blacks maintain queens instead of just take the pawn, just for the unsafety of the white king. But after yes, after bishop b5 and place the knight king on you want, of course, this king is not the safest king ever, but it's a safe king in general. Uh, King g8, apart white win a tempo about the black king, and now bishop g3. So we find the position, and yes, it's true that the white king is more or less solid. Okay, bishop e7. Here he take on e5, which not the queen e1 was slightly better, but okay. Bishop e5 still having the advantage. Details, but here finally he should play queen e1, stopping the move queen h4. But the problem is that Aronian plays bishop d3, who looks like this move is winning, just pinning the knight, but this move have, for example, if you take here, I have the idea of queen f4, and I'm capturing this knight. For that reason, looks like bishop d3 is just winning. But here, Shankland had a hidden resource to draw the game with queen h4. If bishop takes e4, who is the first that we should calculate, you have d3. G takes and queen e4, which you contemplate. And queen e1, just defending g3, g3 are the same way. Knight f3, and now queen h3. Rook a5, and here black have two interesting moves to play contemplate. The first one was just bishop c5, taken by the exchange, and rook a6 was amazing too. If he takes here with the bishop, you can just take with the bishop, and the rook can never take because bishop c5 came with checkmate. Rook e5 here was the best, bishop c5, and now you should be you take back the exchange, and this position looks so equal. So queen if h4 here was a great resource to play counterplay. Instead of that, Shankland tries another way to play counterplay with g3, but it's not enough because just white can take here, queen g6, queen e1. Let's analyze that the knight is still be pinning on e4. You cannot take with the knight because the queen is hanging. And okay, he takes on g3 with the queen, but he finally black finally trade queens. And what happened that now the a6 pawn is still being alive. So black is just white is just winning. Okay, here the rook and the knight is under attack for white, so white can just play rook f3 attacking the knight. But Aronian choose a more aggressive move, rook fp1, just giving the a4 knight, but he has an idea, of course. He takes, and now a7 will move, attacking rook b8, bishop d6, and c takes d4. And now let's see that white plan is obviously just play c4, c5, and still taking space here. And okay, the material is equal because white have one rook for a bishop, one rook and a pawn for a bishop and a knight. But what happened that the a7 pawn have so much value? This pawn is like 3 points. He's like a full piece. This the pawn on 7 rank, helped by the rook. So the a7 pawn was so powerful. This pawn is coming with tempos, and the rook one day is going to be attacked by the d3 bishop. This knight is misplaced on g3 on g3. But only thanks to the a7 pawn. The a7 pawn is the key who makes the white position completely winning. Okay, Shankland is still fighting with king f8, king f2, king is. But the rest of the game was more or less easy for Levon. Aronian going to show us until the end, but the rest of the game was easy for Aronian. c4, king d8, rook g1, attacking the knight, bishop b7, c5, and he finally takes the knight. And this position is undefendable, of course, rook f8, just trading rooks. And now Aronian starts a plan of go to the queen side, and just in the moment where Samuel Shankland plays f5, now new holes are opening in the black side. So now Aronian decides to return to the king side with the king. This maneuver is so typical in the bishop game. First go with one side with the king, and after some pawn move, return with the king. For example, like if bishop b7, just king f4 and the king is center. And after f4, king is 2. And now just after here, trade bishop and black should take, and after queen, and the position is completely winning. So here, Sangla resign. Very interesting game. Is not maybe not the most precise, but because the position is a completely madness, it's also difficult the position. But was so funny and was well played by Aronian. Maybe only some inaccuracies, but and a little bit mistake, but Yeah, the game was so great and so amazing. So I hope that you enjoy the game. Tomorrow is, no, today is a rest day in the US Open. So Wesley So and Fabiano Caruana are both in at the top of the board, and only half point behind is is Levon Aronian. If you want to see the game who helped Caruana and So to reach the top of the board, I analyze many of his games in the tournament. So let's see the games. Bye bye, motherfuckers.